Today, I'm going to be talking about the design of my Lego frog build. Specifically, because I think the coolest thing about a finished Lego creation is actually the process a designer took to get there. We're going to be discussing how I got the concept behind my build, how the bridge and lava design changed as I was building, and how I chose the final background color for the image that I posted. Moving into the concept then, basically it all started with my boy Eli messaged the group chat. He said, I think we should do a frog collab. We should each do a vignette that features frogs doing something, which is pretty vague, but I liked the idea, as did my friends Jake and Hadden. We could do like a frog on an adventure. Eli ended up coming up with this concept art, which we vaguely followed for the rest of the collaboration. And although everyone was pretty serious about the build at the time and were concerned with, how they were going to be integrating the builds together and how it would look overall, make sure the styles matched, I was concerned with this. Can you give the frog a little Lego hat? Why doesn't Lego make frog accessories? Long story short, I ended up getting assigned to do the lava theming build in the bottom right. We really just wanted to make a series of creations depicting a frog going on an adventure, and I thought that was a pretty fun idea. At this time, however, in mid-February, I was still at university and would be for the next few months. By the time mid-May came around and I graduated, I was not in a place mentally where I felt like building at all. Unfortunately, I had to compete in an iron build round for a couple of weeks, and by the time that was done, I absolutely needed to take a break for the summer for the sake of my own mental health. What this meant was that I was the only member of the Frog Collab not building. Everyone in the group chat throughout the summer finished their builds and started roasting me for being the last one to even start building. Here are some examples, and there's a lot of them. Really, you just need to sort and finish your frog build, though. Still not a frog build. Well, you should finish your frog build. No, you need to build frog build. Grant, are you going to be able to do your frog build at all, or should we post without you? Frog! Okay, no time to grieve. Do your frog build. All right, Grant, it's the weekend. It's time to work on your frog build. Also, I'm almost feeling like straight up posting our frog builds. Grant, you building frogs or what? Grant, don't dark age. Build your frog build. That'll get you back in the swing of things. My frog build was finished nearly 5 months ago now. He has a frog build he better do first. That's good, though. It means you have a month to build your frog build. What if I just hacked your account and posted a frog build for you? Thankfully, though, the several months that I took off during the summer were really good, and by the time I moved into my new apartment a couple of weeks ago, I was finally ready to build some frog. In reality, Eli, Jake, and Hadden understood what I was going through, and they were fine to wait until I felt like I could build, but I still think them roasting me is pretty funny, so I thought I would share. Jumping into the actual concept behind my build then, even before I started thinking about my build, I knew the general feel and aesthetic that I was shooting for. I didn't want to make my creation too realistic, but instead keep it kind of cartoony so that it would match the vibe of the other creations that were already built. From there, I opened DeviantArt and searched for, I think, Lava Bridge. DeviantArt is a great place to search for concept art and get ideas. For me, this time, however, I knew the layout that I wanted already, but instead was searching for good color schemes and rock types that I thought looked cool and that I thought could also be really easily recreated in Lego, which is, kind of important. After a little bit of daydreaming and looking at these images, I was able to come up with the final concept that you see here. The essential features of which are a lava waterfall feeding into a lava lake with a brown bridge connecting 2 sections of rock with black trees on top. So yeah, although the final result for the concept may seem pretty simple, for every creation that I make, I actually put a lot of effort into pre-planning it. Before I even started putting bricks together, I had a layout in my head and knew what colors I was going to make all the significant features of the creation. Speaking of features, let's jump into talking about the bridge design. As someone who pays way too close attention to essentially every Lego creation that is posted on the internet, I have a pretty good concept of how other builders are using certain pieces. From this knowledge, I knew off the top of my head that using Lego bars to make bridges was pretty common, but no one had ever used Lego carrot stems before. The first thing that I did when I sat down to start building was attempt this technique. I laid out a brick on the table and tried to place some of the carrot stems to see what it would look like. I thought that the final design looked pretty cool, so afterwards, I came up with the idea of using Technic links to get a nice bow in the bridge, and I went along designing the rest of the creation until I got to this point. Keep in mind that by this time, I'd essentially chosen the final angle for the photo that I was going for, and ultimately, it ended up being a lot lower than I originally thought when I decided to use the carrot stem technique. For this angle, there was a lot of glare on the edge of the bridge, and you can't even really tell that there's a flat part to the bridge. So I decided to try something else. The first alternative that I tried was just some Lego bars, which I found by sifting through my reddish-brown bin, but I ultimately thought that it looked too straight and perfect, and was pretty wide for a frog. To make the bridge slightly more narrow, I ended up deciding to use some brown paint brushes in place of a few of the bars. I sadly don't have enough paintbrushes to span the whole distance of the bridge, but I think mixing bars and paintbrushes gives it a more rugged look, which is what I was going for and is what you see here. Moving then onto the lava, the original idea was just to use all bright light orange with half-plate offsets, making it seem like the lava was flowing outwards towards the perspective of the camera. I ended up deciding to use little specks of normal orange and yellow to add some variety to the build, which looked pretty nice in theory, but by the time I was taking near final photos, however, I was just unhappy with how little the highlights were being highlighted. Throughout this entire process, the boys in the group chat didn't have any concrete advice for me on the lava specifically. I have all these work in progress images saved actually, because I was sending them to get feedback on my build as I was going. What I ended up doing then was reaching out to one of my friends, Aaron, for feedback. Aaron was looking at my nearly finished creation for the first time and had some fresh perspective to give. He thought that I was going in a good direction with the lava, but suggested I go even further. He found a creation that he thought I could learn from, which was built by Chris Piron. Years ago, Chris used to be a LEGO fan, just like I am, but got hired as a LEGO designer. Thankfully, Chris still occasionally builds for fun, which isn't the case for many fan builders that get hired at LEGO. Chris had an awesome lava technique that my friend Aaron suggested I integrate into mine. I ended up implementing the lava while keeping my half-plate offsets, which was anything but easy to do. There weren't always one-to-one replacements for the bright light orange pieces that I had already used, and had to be creative as I was changing the color. But I still wasn't quite satisfied with it. What I ended up deciding was that the red in the lava was too distracting. At this point, I couldn't even see the half-plate offsets without specifically looking for them because the colors were so different in the lava. I decided to remove the red from this lava, arriving at the final result that you see here. I think this is a pretty fun evolution, showing how getting fresh advice and being willing to use techniques from other builders that they have already innovated can really elevate a creation. The final piece to the puzzle then was the background. The background was important because the main way I am presenting this is on Flickr and Instagram. I want the photo itself to show off the hard work I put into the build. It really felt to me like the colors in my final image were just not popping. The first thing I did to try to remedy this was change the background to a slightly red piece of paper. The idea was that the lava would look nice on a red background. Lava, red, makes sense. This paper was much better, but still wasn't there. I decided to quickly select the background in Photoshop and see if tinting it more red would be good. This even redder background I thought was pretty distracting, so I decided to go the other way and remove the red, ending up with this color on the background. Notice that I didn't even perfectly select the background through these trees, but that is okay. At this point, I'm really just trying to get a feel for what the overall background color is, and taking the time to perfectly select the background in this case wasn't worth it. After sharing this with the group chat once again, they agreed that this new color was the correct direction to go, and so after some final adjustments and reshoots, I ended up with this image as the final photo, which I'm pretty happy with. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope that this was somewhat entertaining, and if not, at least a little bit informative. Depending on the build, there can be hours of thought put into seemingly insignificant details in a creation, and I hope you enjoyed seeing a bit of the behind the scenes behind one of my builds. If some part of this didn't make sense, let me know. Subscribe if you want. Until next time.